206, everybody. Vesper Bat here, joined by my friend and colleague,
CPD80.
Hey, what's up? Okay, so, yeah, kind of a busy day. I think every day in policing is busy. I think that's an accurate statement. So straight to the news. Right as we were leaving the office, we learned rather unexpectedly that some people who we were investigating and were seeking charges on had been charged. So that's kind of a big deal. I'll go into some of the details right now while we go grab our Arms Day gear, which we probably aren't going to use.
Seattle police spokesman plays video game while talking about fatal shooting of Charleena Lyles, video removed. Originally published June 23, 2017 at 11:47 a.m. Updated June 23, 2017 at 7 p.m. Officer Sean Whitcomb played the video game Destiny, a first-person shooter-style game, while expressing sorrow about how the Charleena Lyles shooting unfolded, and pointed to problems he perceived in the mental health system and social safety net. By Scott Greenstone and Mike Carter. Seattle Times staff reporters. A video showing Seattle police officer Sean Whitcomb talking about the fatal police shooting of Charleena Lyles while he was playing a video game has been removed from the department's Twitch and YouTube accounts. The video, first posted Thursday, was part of a weekly outreach effort by the Seattle Police Department called FuzzFeed 206, in which as many as 3 department public information officers play the multiplayer, first-person shooter game Destiny and talk about police-related issues. The episode garnered some criticism on social media after it was posted, but Whitcomb declined to comment Friday about the video or why it was removed. Whitcomb told the website GeekWire that in wake of the criticism he was ending the use of Twitch for community outreach. We're certainly listening and hearing what people have said on other social platforms about this feed, Whitcomb told GeekWire. So that is one reason why we are suspending it. Any good that can come of this would be neutralized by any additional pain it might cause. Whitcomb also told GeekWire that he was not directed by Seattle Police Chief Kathleen O'Toole or Mayor Ed Murray's office to end outreach with Twitch. During the nearly 30-minute video that was removed, Whitcomb did not engage in any video game violence. He began the stream by saying the episode was going to be on the heavier side. He then went on to talk about the fatal police shooting of Charleena Lyles on Sunday morning, saying the outcome was totally unacceptable, criticizing the mental health system. Sometime between Thursday afternoon and Friday morning, the video was removed from the department's YouTube and Twitch accounts. Seattle police launched FuzzFeed 206 in November 2016. There seems to have been, I think, critical gaps, Whitcomb said in the video, that might have, had they been dealt with, led to a different outcome. Whitcomb said the mental health system most everyone would agree is woefully underfunded. Whitcomb also discussed what has been publicly released about the shooting and the steps the department's internal investigation will take. It still feels very raw, he said. I know the officers who are involved are deeply impacted, and our hearts go out to Charleena Lyles' family and certainly, most of all, her children. This outcome is totally unacceptable. Whitcomb went on to talk more about Lyles and the 2 Seattle police officers who opened fire. So the question is, where could Charleena Lyles have received more assistance, more help, and not be in a position where our officers are frantically calling for help and indicating that we have a woman armed with 2 knives, knowing full well there are little kids in the apartment. Lyles, Whitcomb said, was struggling with raising children and had a history of abuse and recent criminal charges, along with her own mental health issues. Documents and court records indicate Lyles was receiving counseling and was on the radar of many agencies, including the State Division of Health and Human Services to Seattle Mental Health Court. The video received backlash on social media. Christine Sumpton, who is identified as Seattle resident in her profile, tweeted, "The community is in devastating pain, and this is how you address the killing of Charleena Lyles. Others on social media also criticized the video. In past videos, Whitcomb and others have discussed how Seattle police investigate officer-involved shootings, graffiti removal and other law enforcement topics. In a video earlier this month, they discussed gun violence and an attempted thrill killing in April while in the game shooting and blowing up alien attackers on Mars. Scott Greenstone, Greenstone at SeattleTimes.com, Twitter at @EverGreenstone.
Welcome to FuzzFeed 206, everybody. Vesper Bat here, joined by my friend and colleague,
CPD80.
Hey, what's up? Okay, so, yeah, kind of a busy day. I think every day in policing is busy. I think that's an accurate statement. So straight to the news. Right as we were leaving the office, we learned rather unexpectedly that some people who we were investigating and were seeking charges on had been charged. So that's kind of a big deal. I'll go into some of the details right now while we go grab our Arms Day gear, which we probably aren't going to use. Yeah, so these are big cases because they go back weeks. They go back to April. And what we had was, in this particular case, these three suspects, two young men. Actually, one's just a teenager, age 17. The other one's age 18. How come your Titan's faster than me? Is there a sprint?
Because I'm good. What can I say?
And I think the female was age 23. So, do we have a rocket launcher or anything?
Nope. We got fusions, pulse, and autos.
Ooh,
I'm gonna take that pulse rifle.
I'll grab the fusion just for grins.
All right.
And off to orbit. Indeed, it is. Okay, so 3 people have been arrested. Guns have been recovered. Not just any guns. One is an AR style rifle. The other is an AK-47 style rifle. So this is very significant because this trio committed a number of different shootings in Seattle and outside of Seattle. And in some cases, it seemed indiscriminately. And so that's just very concerning. It's very frightening. This investigation, because it involves gun violence, has been a priority for our detectives. And the great news is that they made arrests and charges were filed. So what this means is they are in jail awaiting court. We put out a release. We understood that the prosecutor's office had released the charging documents to members of the local news media. So the story's up, and folks, I would encourage you to go to the SPD blotter, spdblotter.seattle.gov, and check it out. Ultimately, again, significant case. Certainly something that we're very glad that more people weren't seriously hurt. There were people who were shot and injured. And again, it's just unthinkable that people would use this kind of firepower to just, without any thought, unleash a hail of bullets at people. Any thoughts on that, CPD?
Well, I mean, I would highly recommend going back and reading the blotter post because there's a lot of details that we're just leaving out for the sake of expediency here. But yeah, it's definitely worth the read to see just the kind of the havoc that they were bringing onto the neighborhoods out there, all the way from Kent to Seattle. So yeah, take a second and read that. And this is one of those topics that we've been trying to get our heads around here, not just in BuzzFeed land, but also just as Seattle police officers, just because there's been quite a few shootings, shots fired, I should say. There is a difference.
Right.
But over the past year, or so far this year, we've had 185 incidents of shots fired. So that would just be us getting a verified report of somebody using a gun in the city. And that compares to, well, let's see. So, and as far as actual shootings this year, we've had 37, and then 4 on top of that were fatal. So that seems like a lot for our city, but when we go back and we look at the year prior, we had 25, so we had more shootings this year, but last year we had more fatal shootings at 6. So that's one of those things that so far we've been pretty lucky that we haven't had more fatalities with the quantity of shootings that we've had. And hopefully with these arrests, we can at least start to put a dent in how many of these shots fired calls we have. And I mean, historically, we're a little bit above average. I mean, if we start looking at 4 or 5 years back, I mean, in 2012, year to date, we would have had 135 shots fired calls. And that's just one of those things that we've definitely been working on. And as the days go by, like where we have had the majority of these things, not all of them are. Oh, I just got wrecked.
The void burn.
Yeah, the majority of these things aren't necessarily happening in the South Precinct, but a lot of them are. So it's one of those things that.
Well, and the fact is, we track it. You know, we have a data-driven approach.
Yeah.
So every shots fired, every shooting is mapped, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So every single one of those things is mapped, and then if you go onto our CStat page, you can pull up the latest numbers for that, and you can see a heat map of where a lot of these are happening. We aren't trying to hide the fact that we have shootings happening and shots fired happening in the city. But you can go there and you can see for yourself where these things are happening. So you can be educated in what goes on in your city. And I think that is a very important thing for us as a police department to do and own. Oh boy. Hold on one second. Okay, so as far as what we are doing about it, that's always the next question we get asked on these things. We have added extra patrols in the south end for the next few days to keep an eye on the Columbia City area, where we most recently had a shots fired incident. Thankfully, nobody was hurt in that one as well. But yeah, we have added extra patrols in that area. Our CPT units and our bike squad is also pushing into those areas. I'm coming for you. Is also pushing into those areas to talk to shop owners and things like that to just reinforce that idea that we are out there and we are doing something, and we do actually have a plan about how to go about this. And that visibility is that first step. And then on top of all of that, we have emphasis patrols that we do in the south end due to the shots fired. So we are also adding officers to our shots fired emphasis patrols. So there's going to be a lot of officers. In football terms, you could call it flooding the zone. or basketball, same thing. And it's just going to be a lot of cops in that area. So don't be surprised when you see them. But yeah, that's our goal, is to get that number down, and eventually be able to get rid of it completely. That would be fantastic.
Well, what can people do? You know what I mean? So people are expressing concern about gun violence. Is there anything that they can do? Any way they can help us?
Yeah, so honestly, be a good witness is something that we always tell people, and that I think that should probably be explained a little bit more in depth. But if you see something that kind of weirds you out, or makes you feel like something's about to happen, or you just happen to be there and you see a shots fired incident take place, you need to call 911. Don't assume that somebody else is going to do it. And your information might be different than the person who is also calling 911. So just because someone said they called 911, don't think that is enough sometimes. Sometimes we need all that info and all that intel to be able to make a good, sound judgment and arrest, so that we can keep something like this from happening again. Oh, Vesper, you went down?
No, I'm up.
Oh, you're up. Okay.
So be a good witness.
Be a good witness. If you hear one of your friends saying that they want to go out and shoot something, absolutely give us a call. That way we can at least intervene before something tragic happens, because every time something tragic does happen, you always get those people out there that are going to say, hey, I remember when he said this, or he was such a nice guy until this. And all those things really do allow us to get a good, clear picture of what happened before, during, and after. And I go.
You betcha. I mean, no, it's true, because ultimately, why do a good job investigating a violent crime that's happened when you can do an even better job preventing it on the front end? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's kind of like where we're at. Yes, of course, doing an excellent criminal investigation, holding someone accountable for a violent crime that they committed. Yes, we want to do that. At the same time, we would prefer that no one has been victimized in the first place. And so we put a tremendous amount of emphasis on intervention programs. And in fact, it involves people, from every community and in every age group, because ultimately, violent crime is not just limited to just select group of people. So some of the program that we do is geographical. Some of it is targeted towards youth, because ultimately we do want to make a difference with the youth of Seattle. And in fact, in today's Seattle Times, Detective Cookie Bolden was featured yet again for her absolutely brilliant work with Detective Cookie's Urban Chess Club. And the goal of chess isn't to turn people into world-class competitors where they're facing off with the latest supercomputer. The goal is to teach youth the skills needed to think 3, 4, 5 steps ahead, and to have fun doing it, to have a fun social activity, to learn a new game that they may take with them for the rest of their life, and show that we as police are invested in community safety. So, tip of the hat, Detective Cookie Bolden. So, intervention, very important. Also, jobs. Having enough jobs, plentiful jobs for our area youth is absolutely vital to ensuring that, you know, boredom does not later translate to behavior that, you know, might just be completely harmless, or at its absolute worst, you know, gets people involved in, you know, activity which on the far end of the skill that we deal with involves, you know, violence. And like I said, wow, how are you guys have 2 down already? You guys are ridiculous.
One of those days. Number 3's out in the middle. I just had to retreat for a second.
Ah, I see. There he is. There he is. This is gonna be a quickie, yeah? Mm-hmm. Ta-da! Okay. So, yeah, that's kind of like the whole point, which is, yeah, we've got some of the best detectives in the region, without a doubt. And that case that they did, that we just wrote about tonight, absolutely stellar investigative work. And more on the way. And in fact, we just posted pictures of some guns on a warrant arrest that we made just a couple of days ago. And then just last night, our SWAT team went out and arrested someone in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. So no one is just sitting around waiting for a bad person to turn themselves in into the nearest police precinct. Like, we're all over
this. We would appreciate
this.
that. I'm not going to lie. We would definitely appreciate that. But sadly, that does not seem to be the...
We'll send you the Google Maps to your closest police facility. So let's leave matchmaking here. Let's run a patrol for just a
few minutes. Yeah.
Little spell here. Where do you want to go?
Oh, surprise me.
Oh, I didn't want to go to this next strike, but that's where we're headed.
Oh, let's see what it is.
Okay.
The Black Garden
we can always back out of it.
Something has begun.
No big deal.
This one's kind of easy. I'll do this one.
Now flood the garden channels to protect
I got a few minutes.
Got a few. We can get this done in 12. So the idea that we are, you know, simply driving around in circles or putting out extra cops in areas that have had gun violence, it's a little bit more complex. A lot of our work is focused on people. A lot of our work is dependent on partnership and relationships in other agencies, specifically as it pertains to the surrounding areas of Seattle, because gun violence does transcend geographic boundaries. We rely heavily on the FBI, the ATF. We track forensically every gun that we come into contact with. If it's just ballistics, if it's just shell casings, those are collected and analyzed. If we just come across a gun, we analyze the gun to ensure that it has not been used in a recent shoot. So the case specifically involving those 3 that we were talking about right at the top of this broadcast was a case solved with forensics. And so, you know, maybe that could be the subject of an upcoming show, that exclusively. But the science behind it is quite simple. It's like every gun has its own fingerprint, and then our analysts, they're basically forensic scientists, and they are, you know, tracking these things. So pretty cool stuff. And when you can solve a very violent crime, like the one we talked about earlier, through the use of good detective work and forensics, then everyone knows that the police are actually doing their job. And so several arrests this week, guns recovered, charges brought today, and more patrols in those areas where people have expressed concern. And I think it's fair to say that if you've been involved in gun violence in Seattle, just know that this is, you know, among many priorities. Of course, we don't just get to pick one crime and focus on it, but this has been something we're looking at with laser focus. So be warned, not a good idea. And again, credit to Lieutenant Mark Garth Green and his crew for all of the work they've done on this. Anything to add before we close up this subject?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Just don't use a gun in the city, and we won't have to come find you.
Sage advice. Okay. You know, what would happen if you're just minding your business in the Black Garden and there was a big earthquake? Would you be prepared?
Who's just minding their business in the Black
Would you
Garden?
be prepared? The Vex. And do you think the Vex have enough Vex milk stashed up for 7 to 10 days?
I'm pretty sure they do. They seem like planners to me.
Fair point. But as a Guardian, I can guarantee you I don't have like an ice locker over here where I can just dip in and say, oh, you know, drink some of that green juice that Cade has in the tower. Now, the idea is you don't know what's going to happen. And here in the Seattle area, we certainly don't. Although we're quite hopeful based on experience that, oh geez, in the last few hundred years there hasn't been a catastrophic earthquake. But...
And what does that mean for this area?
we're due! What?
We are overdue for a catastrophic earthquake.
So, yeah, thanks, Lemire. Our friend Lemire says that Vex milk is an excellent source of calcium. And everyone's bone density was increased, and there was much rejoicing. So, with emergency preparedness here in Seattle, we do want to take the opportunity to remind everyone that this is something it is worth talking about. We we talk about it all the time, of course, but probably not the same level of, you know, the crimes of the day that are affecting the community. But we've got our very own Office of Emergency Management in Seattle, and they're absolutely brilliant. Barb Graff, the director, has just done a fantastic job getting Seattle ship shape, and the communities in Seattle, you know, educated around the, you know, possible hazards of an earthquake. There's a lot of news coverage on that. I think New York Times Magazine did a big piece on it. You know, it used to be, you know, 3 days, you know, do you have enough food, water, you know, batteries, flashlights, blankets, warm clothing to last you, your family, your pets 3 days. So that number got adjusted to 7 to 10 days because realistically, based on everything we know from...
We aren't going to be able to get to you for that long, which is a terrifying thing sometimes. But less terrifying if you have the stuff you need. Oh, and I just got wasted.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so it's not that much of a burden to put together just a few things that you think you might need to be comfortable. And by being comfortable, I mean not limiting yourself to a pint of water a day.
Yes. Get some water, get some Cracker Jacks, call it good. You'll be fine.
I've got like an entire stash of Frito-Lay. Priorities, people. So water, spare batteries, warm clothes, things that, you know, you can bust out regardless of weather. Also keep in mind that you might need to help neighbors, so don't be selfish. Don't just think of yourself. You know, check on your neighbors, and you really get yourself ready for a mindset that whatever happens, you know, it's completely something that we can all get through if we're working together. And for us, it could be something just like a storm where the power goes out, or in parts of Washington State, we see some forest fires, especially as the summer heats up, and you might have to evacuate, or a road might be closed and you're stuck. So it's certainly not the end of the world if you've at least thought about it, considered it, and just done some minimal planning and preparation. And our goal as first responders, especially in an agency where the Office of Emergency Management works so closely with the police, we feel like it's our responsibility to every once in a while bring it up and talk about that. So do you have an emergency kit there, CPD?
Oh, I sure do. I need to actually go refresh my water now that we're talking about it, but yes. Yes, I do have an emergency kit. It just doesn't have any water. But
where are you guys?
It's got. We pushed forward, and then all got wasted because
you got greedy, did you?
Got greedy. That's what I do.
Well, we had that series of microquakes just a few weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what got me thinking. That's why it's a microquake. Again? So that's when I refreshed my water, because it does go... Well, I'm not sure it expires, but after a few weeks, it might...
You might not want to be drinking it.
Plastic flavored. I don't know. And what happens to water that's in a plastic bottle for over 3 years? Anything? I mean, it doesn't turn poisonous. What's the worst that's going to happen? I don't know. We should have a water expert on the show. So, yeah, make sure you've got enough to, get by for a week, and understand that you don't have to over-prepare. And no one's saying that if you've done, if you haven't done the minimum, then you're just a bad human being, and you deserve whatever bad grief happens. And the idea is just to think about it, do some preparation, be smart, and just understand that whatever happens, we're all going to be in it together. I think for me, being without Destiny for a week is going to be very disappointing. Is there a mobile version? Is there a way I can attach it to my bike or a treadmill? Powered up that way? Now, that's the other thing, is is Wi-Fi going to be up? I mean, who knows, right? Well, satellite might have some sort of service.
Wouldn't count on it.
Okay. Alright, Mr. Optimist. Don't count on it. Everything's gonna be gone. You're gonna be off the grid, hunting deer with a stick. Maybe not that
I've seen this movie.
Yeah, have you? Have you seen that movie?
I think so.
Gosh, what was that movie? The Road. Have you seen The Road?
The Road.
Have you?
No, I have not.
It had Aragorn in it, minus the Ranger getup, minus the
I'm
powers.
pretty sure he has an actual name.
Minus the powers of Gandalf the White to bail him out in those tough situations. He was not the heir of Gondor, but he was a doctor who's just hanging out in post-apocalyptic Pacific Northwest, I think.
And who doesn't want to do that?
Are you sure you haven't seen this one?
I've never seen this.
Have you read the book?
I think you know as well as I do that reading is not my strong suit.
I read the book.
I went to public school in Ohio.
Oh no! And to anyone, I'm pretty sure no one from Ohio is tuned in. Lemire, are you from Ohio? Let's be honest. Because if you are, CPD apologizes.
He can agree.
Oh boy!
I know those teachers did a lot of work, but boy, I was not a willing participant, I don't think.
Yeah. So movie book review time. the road, just because we're talking about emergency preparedness. You know, the road's pretty grim. It starts off with what everyone's led to believe is kind of a nuclear attack, and the protagonist quickly fills up the tub with water. So, you know, here's a pro tip. If you ever see a really, really bright flash,
don't look at it.
Okay.
I've played enough Fallout to know this.
Besides not looking at it, that might be something bad that's happened, and you might want to start thinking about a water supply. Filling up your bathtub is actually quite smart. It's a very pro tip thing to do before any water gets contaminated from the general source. So,
also, shut off your water in your house so it doesn't feed back into like your hot water tank. Your hot water tank's another source of water as long as it doesn't get contaminated.
Wow, man.
So there you go. Look at that.
I see.
That's like
I didn't even
20 gallons worth of water.
I didn't even think of that. How am I gonna take a shower?
Oh. The question is, have you taken a shower?
With bleach, 5 times a day.
With bleach.
Oh, goodness gracious. I'll save my self-res just because I don't want to wipe on this last boss because we're at our 30-minute mark. But, so, the road, I got as far as the bathtub. Beyond that, it just turns super dark. And ultimately, it's this guy and his kid. And I will say that not all humans behave well in the post-apocalyptic world. Some resort to cannibalism and tribal warfare. Oh my gosh. But that's all fine. If you keep your smarts about you, as this guy did. His big strategy was get to the coast. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily the best strategy, but I would say getting to the coast isn't bad. Getting to the mountains isn't bad. But any place where you can reliably find clean water, food, don't eat mushrooms with spots on them. I don't know, man.
Mushrooms in general, that's just gross.
Hey, I thought you were the guy with a culinary degree. What do you mean mushrooms are gross?
Doesn't mean mushrooms aren't gross. Mushrooms and olives, like, who would do that to yourself? I'm drawing lines today. That's what I'm doing.
Is that okay? So, basically, if okay, did you see 28 days later? Right? I'm sure you did.
I sure did. I think I have it here.
Yeah, you can always go to the grocery store. It's not a bad strategy. But looting is discouraged.
Yes. In an official capacity, looting is discouraged.
I hope this hasn't gone off the rails too far. Barb, if you're watching this.
We apologize.
So, I mean, essentially, there's not much looting because this isn't 28 days later. I think this is like 28 months later in this movie. So whatever they were able to find in civilization, I think at that point was fair game. Because there's a complete collapse. So the happy news to that is that there wasn't much happy news. I didn't spoil anything. The movie actually, you just have to be psychologically prepared for something dark, and then let that be your inspiration for putting together, I don't know, 24 bottles of water in case there's a minor earthquake in Seattle.
All right, I think that does it today.
Yeah, I think we hit our limit. Any last words there, CPD?
No, I'm good. Just stay safe. If you see something, give us a call.
Cool. And I will just say that my last words are, as far as the broadcast time, just to make sure we're consistently on time. There's been a few times when we haven't been. We're going to consider moving this particular broadcast to 8 p.m. on Arms Day. So stay tuned. We'll post something up on Twitch and let folks know. But beyond that, just a pleasure to share the latest on our gun violence strategy and some useful and not so useful tips on emergency preparedness. On that note, everyone have a great week. Stay safe and eyes up, Guardians.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheep up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Charlotte County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if some, if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave a, let's say, actually, yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But, do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt-free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea, too, that we have is, if I got, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head, help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.